Hello guys, so we are now in Dubai and here with you Anna Tutova, co-founder of Coinstelegram, and we have really cool guest today, Kyle Chasse, who is founder of MBA Global, as well Commonwealth and Plate Network, and they allow as well people all over the world to get into crypto and to get early access into deals which used to be available only to the big VCs. So privileged investors. And as well, Kyle has a really cool YouTube channel, and it's probably one of the fastest growing YouTube channel currently, and he plans as well to build his own media company, and we'll know more from Kyle about his market views and building his companies, and as well his altcoin picks. In what projects you involved now? You have now Commonwealth, like a VC fund. You still have Master Ventures, and does Paid Network works as well, or no?
Yeah. So we Master Ventures has rebranded recently to MV Global, and because we want to be able to give more distinction to each entity that's created under that MV Global brand, and so. We have MV we have the 0 to 1, which is the kind of, as it explains, 0 to 1. So that's usually ideas that we create in-house, and then we invest in money into the startup, get an MVP going, and we kind of share resources across into these startups, and then that would be building MVP, hiring the team, getting them off the ground, going out raising more money, and then helping them go to market, and then sitting on the board after that and letting that team run that project. That's kind of the startup incubator VC builder model. And then we do advisory as well. But I did a lot more advisory before than I'm doing now. Very, very selective because we just want to focus a lot on what we're doing. But for certain projects that really fit well into our ecosystem and that I really like for one reason or another, maybe it's something I'm super passionate about, or it somehow really blends in well with our portfolio companies, or something that we're doing, then I can help a lot. And so we have advisory, and then so under the 0 to 1, I guess you could say we have Paid Network and Commonwealth, and then a few that are in the pipeline as well. And then we also have, we don't know the name yet, but it will be the media side of the business. So that's my YouTube channel, and that's my socials. But we want to grow that into a bigger media company because I think that the future, like we already see it, right? We already see way more content being consumed on things like X or YouTube versus like your ABC or CNN, shows, and no one trusts them anyway. So I just think it's very powerful to have your own distribution if you're creating your own products, and so. So I've been going really, really hard on, and for me it's important too, because what I've always wanted to do is have a voice in the industry where I can talk about the things that really matter. Because if you have noticed, most people look at this asset class like another stock or something, and that they always just think about, it's like every conversation ever is about how to make money, right? And while that's important, because the way that tokens should be designed is that they work to that inherent human nature that we have. Everyone has this own little greed within us. We want what's best for us, and everyone wants to make the most money for themselves, and that's just our human nature, right? And so if you build like a proper token economy, which people don't really understand, but if you do, then it's a really unique model that can align incentives with everyone involved. And this is one of the things that I'm the most passionate about, and people, that I feel is one of the biggest overlooked or underworked type of situation here. And so, I really wanted to, well, let's say I've been in this industry since 2012, right, and then started building since 2013. But since that time until I left America, which was the end of 2017, I was pseudo-anonymous in the space. I never kind of put myself out there. I built the world's first Bitcoin lottery and things like that. Was a COO of a layer 1 that was trying to do public and blockchain and public and private interoperability with the public chain. Then you could build private chains off of that, so like enterprises could use, but also share things on the public network. And before 2017, every conference that I went to and everyone I met in the space was really truly excited to build something that was like decentralized, right? It was really a real thing. That's all you ever heard at these conferences, were people talking about building something cool, right? And it wasn't really, there wasn't a lot of money being made at the time, right? If you made money, it's because you were in Bitcoin early, right? And then, or maybe you got into Ethereum ICO or whatever, but there wasn't all these crazy altcoins and stuff like that. And so in 2017, everything changed, and I had been to a conference in like the whole front of 2017 and maybe even the last half of 2016. And so when I went to Consensus in 2018 in New York, which is a big conference, it was shocking to me to see how many people were there, how many people were wearing suits, and the discussion. And when I talked to somebody, like, it was, they tell me what they're doing, and they were building some sort of centralized company, and they had the token. And when I asked what the purpose was, they said, usually said it was, it's just easier to raise money that way, which means that they had no idea. And what really blew my mind was I was watching a panel of expert VCs, and that's the thing too, is when you're on stage at an event speaking in front of thousands of people, those people are perceiving you as an expert because you were chosen to give advice. And I'm sitting there in the audience watching this panel of experts and VCs, and I always ask this question. I asked them, I said, do you believe that that equity, that accrues value, and tokens generally should both exist within the same company or team? And they said yes, of course. Which to me, it's not an easy answer like that. In fact, if you look at the biggest things today, like Ethereum doesn't have a company, right? You have a company called Consensus that was built from Joe Lubin, who was part of building the protocol. But the actual protocol and the token ETH, everything the revenue is generated on Ethereum protocol is kept within the ETH ecosystem, right? It rewards validators and these kind of stuff. You can't sell Ethereum, so an equity in Ethereum has no value because it's decentralized, and this is what we should be looking to do. I think a lot of people are building Web 2 infrastructure to facilitate Web 3 assets, like FTX, for example. Mm-hmm. We as an industry got a lot of shit for Sam Bankman. Crypto's a scam. No, he's a scam. And that's the problem with most centralized, opaque companies, is you have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. And that's the antithesis of what we believe in Web3. We want transparency, we want openness, permissionless, and we don't want to trust, we want to verify, right? And so when that went down, unfortunately, it brought a lot of bad reputation. And so anyway, the point is, long story short, after Consensus, I didn't know how to feel. I mean, that was April, so we were still like in a bull run at that time, or maybe it was the tail end of it. I didn't really know how to feel. I felt a bit lost, and then maybe that was Consensus. Yeah. Anyway, so then in 2018, I went up to Chiang Mai to another conference there. So I was trying to figure out what to do with my life at this point, because the World Super Lotto, the Bitcoin lottery, it was just early. But imagine if someone had created if they created a Bitcoin lottery today that's transparent. I mean, everyone plays the lotto with that. In every country there's a lottery, and they make, and each time there's a winner, there's millions of dollars on the line, right? Sometimes in America, I know they're up to hundreds of millions of dollars. Imagine if you had one global lottery and you could win Bitcoin from it. I think that would still be really interesting today, but I was just ahead of the curve. And then the layer one didn't really work out either. So, but I happened to accumulate a lot of Bitcoin in 2013. My last company was in regenerative medicine and anti-aging. I sold that, exited fiat completely in 2013, and went all into Bitcoin. And so I accumulated a lot of
2013 you exited fiat?
Yeah. I didn't have a lot, but everything I did have, I put into my company, which was called the Reverse Aging Institute. And that wasn't a huge exit either. It was like I was building this startup. I had a couple clients. It was like a consulting for ultra high net worth individuals who wanted to live longer, because I had built, prior to that, I was involved in the anti-aging and regenerative medicine space. I worked with this billionaire. We built out a protocol that actually was demonstrating significant reduction in age. And we had all the medical reports to back that up. So I just left working with him and then started doing my own consulting company. So there's actually a guy here from the Middle East who wanted to buy the company, but mostly for the branding, because I had an amazing video, amazing branding, name. So he bought it all for like $130,000, right? And that was probably what I spent on it, but at least I had $130,000 to put into Bitcoin at that time. So
How did you discover Bitcoin that early back in 2012?
2012, Silk Road. So I think most people that knew it from 2012 were Silk Road, or they were just or they were cypherpunks, right? But it wasn't. So with Silk Road, it wasn't Bitcoin necessarily that fast. It was one of the things, but that was my introduction to the dark web, to Silk Road, and to Bitcoin, and the whole thing blew my mind. Like, what? There's an eBay for drugs and stuff, and then anyone can just go there as long as you know the custom URL, and they have this Onion browser, and it blew my mind that literally anyone could just go there and use Bitcoin to buy anything they want, and it's shipped to your front door. And that was unbelievable for me. So that was the first time that I had exposure to Bitcoin to understand what it was. But it wasn't until 2013 when I found out that it was what allowed WikiLeaks and Julian Assange to continue doing his work. Because when you're trying to responsibly put out, I think it's 60,000 pages of confidential government documentation, with a lot of that still being relevant for field agents that are out in the field at that time, you don't want to put out the stuff on the internet with the people's identities exposed. That could put a lot of people's lives at risk. So they were responsibly leaking this documents on WikiLeaks. And, to me, I'm not sure how most people feel, but I think that most people who have escaped the rat race or think outside the box would probably agree that that's a good, noble cause. Anyway, the point is that the central powers that be told everybody to stop allowing any money to go into WikiLeaks. So you had Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, Western Union, MoneyGram, all the banks. No one was allowed to send money to WikiLeaks, right? And so they tried to do what they always do, just choke somebody out. And then someone told Julian about Bitcoin, and then accepted Bitcoin, and operations could continue. To me, that was my aha moment, because before then, even as a teenager, I was always watching conspiracy theory, stuff on YouTube, and it wasn't that I severely bought into any of them, but it did paint a picture that there's a severe lack of transparency going on with the governments and things like that. And I also watched the history of money and understood that the fiat thing was a scam. I grew up in America, and I never voted in an election because that also is rigged. And so it just felt and I traveled a bunch before, and I saw that we were very privileged growing up in America. I'm a white American man, in a middle to upper class family. I'm the most privileged, but I felt like I was the most privileged person I could have. But when you start traveling, you understand that there's a lot of the world who doesn't have that. And so I wanted to, my whole life I wanted to do something that was impactful, because I cared a lot about what was going on. And to me, when I found out what Bitcoin allowed WikiLeaks to do, then I understood this has massive potential. So then that was beginning of 2013. I was still at this company, Reverse Aging Institute, and all I could do was obsess with Bitcoin at that time, obsessing with it, right? And I couldn't even focus anymore. So that's why I sold it, and then just went down the Bitcoin path. And So that's you understand that my background now is this obsession with decentralization, and I truly believe that as a governance model will be the best way to govern things moving forward. People will tell you today that it doesn't work, it's too unorganized, and maybe the models that people today have tried haven't worked really well. There's not a lot of organization. Maybe they tried to decentralize too quickly. I think that it's just about creating the structure that does work. How do you do it? You decentralize over time. You relinquish power from the creators over time, and I think that once we have this, blockchain will have its ChatGPT moment, right? AI has been around for 35 years. No one really understood the power of it until ChatGPT came along. Why? Because before you had to use, GPT has been around for years already. People could tap into the API and use it for things. But we need something that grandma can use, and we need to abstract away all the complicated infrastructure layers. So this is why I think that we might see that ChatGPT thing happen this bull run.
What can it be, in your opinion? What type of application?
Well, so a lot of people think it's going to be a game, which makes sense. There's a lot of gamers out there. However, and a game is it's an interesting thing when it comes down to adoption, because there's very few AAA games that are building in the to bring the maximum value into that token ecosystem. So there's always going to be the centralized company who's building a game, and the game itself will have instead of the in-game assets, the loot boxes, the currency that you earn, that will actually be Web3 based, which will be interesting because it'll bring a lot of attention to people who didn't care before. Now they understood that this new rare weapon they picked up in a game, they can go sell it on their favorite NFT store that accepts it and make real tangible cash, as before you couldn't do that in Fortnite or whatever else. But it's still going to be interesting how that is going to be is it decentralized? No. Right? Is it permissionless? No. Is it unconfiscatable? No. Right? So there's still a lot of, so that's, I guess, one use case of a token where I would call it a Web 2.5 version, and that's okay. But I think that I'll give you the best example. So we have, let's say, Uber or Lyft or Grab, wherever you live in the world, and let's say that it's a ride-sharing protocol that we all use, and it's so easy to understand. You have, to get from my house to the airport costs $100 in Uber, whatever. Now what you have is a lot of people building these, like I said, centralized companies that have a token model, and then they say that they're better than the alternative because they're decentralized, but they don't know what that means, and so they're actually making it's this hybrid version of, and so they're like, oh, we're great. We're gonna disrupt Uber. Uber charges 30% fees. We're gonna charge 15%. Wow! So now you have a model where it's I don't know what the math is, but let's say it's $90 to get to the airport from my house, and there's only $15 taken out. So basically, it's cheaper for the passenger, and the driver makes more money on that same ride. Okay, maybe they start taking market share from Uber, but they still have room for disruption. So someone that comes along and says, we're going to take zero, we're going to build a protocol that works, and we're not going to, us as creators who built the protocol, we're not going to take any value out of that. It's going to be peer-to-peer. And so in this example, maybe my house at the airport only costs $70, and the driver or 70, I don't know, 75, whatever. The driver keeps 74, and $1 goes back into keeping the network secure, people who are doing work in the network, the DAO, things like that, to kind of recycle and help. So in this situation, there's zero value extraction from that network, that peer-to-peer decentralized network. And that's always going to be the most efficient version. And if anybody in the world has a chance to use an app that feels identical to the incumbent, it feels identical to Uber, from a passenger side or driver side, feels the same. Everyone's going to take the cheapest option every time, and the drivers are always going to choose to take passengers that are on the one that are going to pay them the most. So that if someone does that well, that example will be something that is so easy to understand. It completely disrupts the entire Uber, which is massive. What we're building, Commonwealth and Paid Network, have these what I call fully closed loop circular token economies. All that means is that all the value created from a project or protocol, all the value created stays within the token ecosystem. That means that there's none of the revenue is getting extracted into like my pocket or the team's pocket. So we as founders already get to keep a good amount of the token supply, right? That's our upside. So the goal of anyone who has a token should be, in my opinion, how do we increase the real value of this token by keeping all the revenue in that ecosystem? And so we have built what I think to be the creme de la creme, or the best token models that will demonstrate this. So we've also built something that is very appealing to literally everybody in the world. Like Commonwealth, for example, it appeals to that first thing that everyone is curious about when they look at crypto is how do I make money? Mm-hmm. And then so that's we're building it in a way that abstracts away a lot of that complicated Web3 stuff. So the idea is that grandma who heard about crypto but doesn't or anybody, right? Housewife, anybody who wants exposure to crypto but doesn't know how to go pick one of the 20,000 altcoins or one of the 80,000 meme coins, whatever, they would rather just put $5,000 or $10,000 of their credit card into a fund, for example, right? This is what Commonwealth is. It's a decentralized fund. But
so how does it work? Do they need to mint any NFT, or will you have tokens for Commonwealth?
So I believe that at the end of the day, most of these dApps, decentralized applications, shouldn't force the end user to have any tokens at all to participate. They can, and they can provide extra incentive within the model. But if grandma wants to put $10,000 into a fund, let's say A16 or Sequoia, right, or Pantera, these big tier 1 funds, their minimum investment is like usually $500,000 to $2 million, and you have to be an accredited investor, right, which excludes 99% of the world. So I believe strongly that there's at least tens of millions of people, at least maybe even 100 million people, maybe even more, that would love with their investable, let's say there's tons of people in third world countries that may have 5 investable dollars a week, extra from their income, or maybe it doesn't matter, but these people would like to put their money to work, invest it, but they don't trust themselves to do it either, because I've heard so many stories of people going and putting money into the secondary market, and they work hard for that money. Like my dad, for example, he put $150,000 in the stock market back in the day. The price went down like 15%, whatever, 10, and he got scared as shit and pulled all his money out and said he's never doing it again, right? And I was at the dentist the other day, and he said, I put some money into like Dogecoin and Shiba, and it went down like 5%, and I got scared and took all my money out, right? Because those kind of swings are very big for people who work really hard for their money. And so if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know how market cycles work, if you don't know how volatile the market is, and you are literally buying on the secondary market, you're always someone else's exit liquidity. Your VCs, influencers, anyone who got into private sales, you are their exit liquidity. And the best place to be is always the earliest rounds, right? The seed round, private round, primary markets. That has been inaccessible till today, until Commonwealth, to get access to these deals, right? So Commonwealth's purpose is to reimagine what a fund looks like, right? And so I believe that I like to call myself like a systems innovator. Right? I'm not out there creating like radically new different DeFi protocols that like these Andre Cogniers and these guys are building that are like just gigabrain mathematic guys. I'm looking at like what is familiar to people that can be improved and much more efficient using blockchain technology, lowering barriers of access and making it accessible to the masses. That's the entire thing behind both Commonwealth and Paid Network. So Commonwealth, it's a fund, and like a fund will open up. Anyone from the world can put anything from $1 to 100,000 to whatever cap, and there's a lot of things. Do you want me to explain the entire Commonwealth model right now, or just keep it very high level?
Maybe high level.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you can go to the Commonwealth website and check out all the details, or I made videos about it before, but there's a lot of innovation there, Like a fund will open up and people can invest in stablecoin. They put stablecoin into the fund. Let's say it's a $10 million fund. Once $10 million has been committed, the fund is closed. And then the way that investments are made, if you invest into the fund, you're an LP, and you have voting rights. Weighted on how much of that pool that you own. And but the way that we try to minimize risk to the investors is that there's like what we call them oracles. It's first we selected them, but eventually will be voted upon in like a democratic process. And these oracles are experienced professional VCs. We've got guys on there from Hashkey and Animoca and like Metavest and me, who all have very successful track records. And so they are the ones who are allowed to propose deals to the funds. And so let's say that I make investment into what I think is going to be the next coolest like layer one or whatever. My Master Ventures, MB Capital, we will deploy into that. And then the founders will say, Kyle, who else would be good to have on the cap table? So right now, the way it works is like most VCs have their buddies they share deal flow with and blah, blah, blah. Now we want them to understand that they should also be talking to us and bringing Commonwealth into the cap table. So that's why a lot of the oracles sit in different funds. And what's the benefit there? So why would they suggest that Commonwealth comes on the cap table versus some other VC? It's about how much value can your investors add to you as a project. And every single person that holds a wealth token, part that this is the token of Commonwealth, will benefit from the investments that Commonwealth makes directly from that investment doing well. Because the way that works is that the fees that are charged to investors, in a normal fund you'd have a carry fee. These fees are actually used to re-inject back into the ecosystem. They're buying the wealth off of the open market, they're burning some of it gets redistributed back into rewards pools, the whole thing's gamified. And so imagine for Commonwealth, imagine that you had, I don't know what the biggest fund in the world is, but let's just say it's like a Sequoia. BlackRock, sure. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Commonwealth grows to the size of I don't know about BlackRock, but like a Sequoia, right, or an Andreessen Horowitz, because one, they're extremely limited on who they can accept money from, and they also, I'm not going to speak for them, but like they probably offer a good amount of value, but there's a lot of VCs that don't, and so the thing is teams would want Commonwealth to come on the cap table because they're going to get an organic marketing army from day one. And one of the most important things in this space is being able to get your message out to the world. The tension is always between every day there's new shiny objects, right? And how do you capture people's attention? You need people to help you market. And so Commonwealth is building a marketing army, and that marketing army will be very attractive for projects to allow them to come on the cap table. I'm really, really proud of what we've been building, mostly because they're built within the true values and ethos of Web3, meaning that they're permissionless, they're decentralized, they're open, autonomous, censorship resistant, and most importantly, they're really giving life-changing opportunities to the 99%, right? Which is like, so also a lot of the branding has to do with like the Occupy Wall Street, the whole thing that happened before with Wall Street bets and stuff. So trying to bring a lot of that into it. So I think that Commonwealth and like Paid Network are going to be things that potentially can bring mass adoption. And that's really my goals, is to build something in the space that does, one, provide a lot of value for millions of people, and two, has that ChatGPT moment that people go, oh, this is why building something correctly is so valuable, you know? Whereas there's a lot of other things, like even if you look at launch pads, like other popular, we call them IDO launch pads or ICOs or whatever. Even those are centralized companies where the founders are keeping most of the revenue and not reinjecting it back into a token ecosystem. So Paid, like I won't go into it now, but its entire economy was rebuilt to provide all of that value back to its the paid token holders and that ecosystem. So I think that what we're trying to do is going to be something that's what I've been thinking about for a long time, is like, what is that killer app that really demonstrates the power of blockchain to the world?
And now actually meme coins became quite a powerful tool of marketing for the crypto and blockchain, and as well they attracted quite a big influx of new investors, and maybe even became like alternative of ChatGPT in the crypto world. So what's your take on meme coins? And I know you invest a lot yourself into meme coins, so why are you fascinated about that?
I think that one of the fascinating things is I think it was 2022, 2023, something like that, a bear market. I was in New York, and I was doing a collaboration with another guy who makes YouTube videos. And one of the things that we wanted to do was we wanted to go out in the street and just ask businesses and just regular strangers if they hold Bitcoin. And almost everybody said no, or if they accepted Bitcoin. Almost everybody said no, but a lot of them said, no, I don't have any Bitcoin, but I do hold some Doge and Shiba, you know? And that was the aha moment where, like, what? Like, wow, like this thing is just a meme, right? I mean, and so that's when I had to think about, like, what is going on here, and it creates a really interesting market. It's a meme coins are a way for people to speculate that don't have to understand the complexities of crypto. Before, when people are marketing their project, they're trying to tell the world how it's going to change the world, when most people don't even understand what an altcoin is or does. You know, more or less that, like, parallelized EVMs with modularity, with data availability over here, and, you know, sequencing and smart like. That's not, most people don't understand that, right? But if it's a funny, cute dog with a hat, like, bro, it's literally just with a hat, you know? And so people can understand that. It's relatable, it's funny, it makes them laugh, and they'll buy into that. They speculate that that's going to do well. For me, I've done a very good job at selecting the right ones. But I'm not someone who has the time, or do I want to go out and, like, one strategy is putting, like, a small amount of money into everything that comes out, and eventually one of those will hit, right? But I find a problem with that is that one is that you're spread super thin across a large amount. So even if you do get one that hits and it does a 500x or something, maybe you only put $10 in there. So while that's a lot of money, it's not like generational wealth. More if you can find something that's a little bit later stage, like that has some traction, but is still valued in the, like, $50 million or less market cap, and then has potential to go to 100 billion. You know, that can be then, and if you can build more conviction over time, like, one, okay, you see think something like, I think the first thing that I did on this was Pepe. And actually the Pepe that is popular now is a ripoff. I'll tell you why in a minute. But I was able to see virality in that, right? Like Pepe is the biggest meme ever, but what I did is I paid attention to the wallet growth, and the wallet growth was growing at an astronomical daily rate. That's a sign of virality, right? And so when you know that something's going to go viral, and you can, every day I watched as it became more and more viral, wallet growth, new wallets created grew every single day at a bigger rate than I've seen from anything. And so what I did with Pepe was I continued to make probably 4 or 5 times a day, just kept adding to my size, position, make it bigger. And that's a good strategy, in my opinion, is to build conviction and then go heavy into something that you think you have a lot of confidence that's going to do really well.
But that's old project, Pepe coins or something, right?
So
It's already with as well quite a big market cap.
So I'm glad you brought that up because this is where I was going to progress into the discussion about meme coins. Like 99.9% of the meme coins that are being created right now will probably go to zero or close to zero soon. They'll either within weeks of launching or certainly by the bear market, they will just be done. Few of them, like Dog with Hat probably, and maybe the first meme coin that gains traction on the major blockchains that have ecosystems, they might be around as well. But I do believe that there's an interesting intersection here where you create a meme coin that does go viral. It is interesting, and it also creates an organic native community around that. Now, a lot of people will tell you that's trying to give the meme utility actually kind of ruins the fact that it's a meme. I don't think so. I think that all memes will eventually get boring to people. Like when I first learned about Dog with Hat, and it was like I made a joke every single day about it. But then eventually, like now, it's like not so funny to me anymore. But there's still enough newcomers. It's a good timing. Still enough newcomers coming to the market because we're in the early days of bull run. That joke for them will continue on, and so I think that's something that will go to 100 billion this bull run. But if you talk about Pepe, for example, there's Pepe coin ticker Pepe, and there's ticker Pepe coin, and so this is an interesting story where the first Pepe meme coin was actually built on a layer 1. It was called a mimetic blockchain. It was a blockchain built for memes, essentially. And these devs built a lot of cool stuff. They built the world's first NFT marketplace. They built a layer 1 that had on-chain storage. And this is, when we get into the runes discussion, this is why this is also interesting. Like right now, when we use NFTs on other blockchains like Solana or ETH or whatever, Elon talked about this with Joe Rogan too. It's like, you don't actually own the art, right? You own a thing that says that you have rights to this image on IPFS. So if that server goes down where your image is stored, like it's gone. You don't actually have ownership over the entire NFT. But these devs that were building mimetic chain, like they thought about that back in the day, and then now Runes is doing it as well. But the point is that I think that meme coins will forever be a part of the industry, but I think that for me anyway, the best way to use them would be to create a brand identity, to create a culture around the brand, to be able to give the people who are less sophisticated, care less about the technology, something to speculate on as well, but also for that community to eventually come in and learn about the cool things that it is doing, and it's a good way to reach a broader audience, to bring them in, to educate them about the cool things that you are building and doing, and things that'll bring more value. And so in the meme coin world right now, there is this what I call the Pepening, which is where this new Pepe that's popular, it's $3 billion valuation right now, will be replaced with the OG Pepe coin soon. And a lot of people find that hard to believe because there's so much traction with this fake Pepe, as I call him. But you'll see that this is why this whole industry is very, like with game theory and token economics, there's an event that's going to happen in about a month. And by the time people are watching this, it will have already happened. And it'll be interesting to see if my thesis played out. But in about a month, there'll be an event that will cause a significant amount of these Pepe coins to be in demand.
What will be this event?
So the original developers for Pepe coin, they're all anonymous, and I've talked to them on the phone before. Some big respected VCs I talked to have actually met them in person at different events. They've been working on an AI project for like 3 years, and their white paper is published at Cornell University. And I actually, when I was doing research into this, I actually had that white paper vetted by other AI researchers I know to make sure, I don't know how to validate that, right? And they came back to me saying this is all like very legit. They said it's ambitious, but it all seems to make sense from like a, so I know that they're capable of building a really technical, comprehensive white paper that outlines a solution of of a layer one blockchain that is going to be able to facilitate in a decentralized way all of the AI models that are being built in the world, and allowing them to have some sort of governance model and work together and collectively and build an economy around that. So this event is on this chain called Based AI. There is 1,024 slots essentially that someone can buy, and that slot, it's like owning a property and allowing people to come, or like a factory or something, and allowing people to come use your space to build their AI models and have their AI models and then go into the marketplace, and it's kind of this whole ecosystem for, but that's rare, right? 1,024 spaces for the entire world building AI models. And as we've recently seen, Llama 3, which is an open source AI model, is now as powerful as GPT-4, open source. So people didn't think that we'd be able to, as a community, create models that are as good as OpenAI. But we know that collectively, when you open up the brains of the world, yeah, we can do some pretty amazing stuff. And so I think this is going to be one of the most powerful things. So if you want one of these, what they're called brains, these allocated slots, 1,024, you must burn Pepe coin. And the first one will be 1,000, and the next one sold will be 1,200. The next one sold 1,400, 1,600, 1,800. So every one that's sold, it'll increase the price by 200 Pepe coin each time. And effectively, if all 1,024 are sold, it will reduce the supply of Pepe coin by 80%. 80%. So that means it'll become extremely scarce asset. And there's other things that are being built in the Pepe coin world that will also add value and also add to the burning of it. There will be no other token model where you have this, what's called supply shock. You know, people talk about Bitcoin all the time for supply shock. This is like an accelerated, it's a supply shock on steroids. So this is, I think, a great example of a meme coin having a lot of underlying value, and the developers always bringing value back to that original meme coin. Whereas like that shows a lot of integrity to me. Whereas a lot of developers, if they would just like start a new coin for a new project and not bring value back to the OG community. So so meme coins in general, like they're interesting. They're going to be around for a long time. There is an art and a science to it, but generally I think people know it's a casino. You know, it's like the world's largest casino right now, and it's fun. It's fun for people to just speculate on things. It's also fun for you and your friends to go out to Vegas for a night and like, you know, throw money at stuff when you think you're probably going to lose, but maybe strike it big. I don't know. And the odds of making money from meme coins are probably much greater than that of winning a lottery or winning in Vegas, for example.
So why do you think some meme coins become successful and many others just die totally?
So the ones that will be the most successful are the ones that are going to be relatable to everybody, like, which means it has to be like language agnostic, it has to be sector agnostic, it has to. So like, for example, you can't make a meme coin about Vitalik's cat and expect it to be popular. It can be popular within our little echo chamber of Web3 because we all know Vitalik and his cat or whatever, or you know, Anatoly from Solana, his dog, cat, whatever. It can't be that specific to where like if your grandma from Ukraine or something is like looking at this and like she's like, I don't get it. Like, who is Anatoly and what is this cat? You know, it needs to be generic enough. So the beauty of WIF, for example, or like, you know, coin with hat, is that it was the hat, right? It was the hat that literally could be copy and pasted on everything, and people you just see the hat everywhere. So forget the dog. The dog was genius because everyone's looking for the next dog coin, but just giving them an accessory or something that can be copy and pasted to everybody, that makes something funny, right? Kyle with hat, and like some puts the hat on me, or like Brian Armstrong with hat, or like Joe Biden with hat, or like the Wall Street Bull with hat. Like, this is very viral, and so I think that for a meme coin to be successful, it needs to be understood by as many people as possible in a very short amount of time, and you're looking for virality. So it's the same type of tactics that like Mr. Beast could probably create an amazing meme coin, even if they didn't know it was related to him, because he understands virality, and so so for me, I try to find those plays, right? Something that is unique about something. Like, I don't know how this will do. It's still very new, but like someone created one recently called Tucker Carlson, and they're doing these like videos every day from it's a like animated version of Tucker Carlson, which is so great because he's such an important figure, right? And he got fired from Fox for speaking his mind, and then he went onto X as a platform to make shows, and he got way more viewership on his X platform than he ever did on Fox News. And so this guy made a meme out of Tucker, and he created, and like if there's an event that happens, he's able to like same day put out news report, but an animated version. It's hilarious. It's almost like South Park style. And I think that's good, entertaining content to always create people to build that brand loyalty. Like they're going to go watch the videos every day because it's funny. And so I saw that very early at like $1 million market cap, and I thought this is probably going to be big. Like I'm going to gamble on this. I'm going to speculate. And so I did go really heavy. Told my community about it very early on, and it's just grown, like from 1 million when I found it to like 80 million or something like that. So there is a science to identifying and creating. Yeah.
And you promoted as well some like really low cap meme coins, like for example Jensen, which is on the name of Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia and co-founder of Nvidia. So, but I think that generally not like every grandma knows who is Jensen Huang. So why did you see the potential there?
Yes.
And what's your as well investment strategy with such low caps?
Yeah. So you'll see when I make when I tell my audience, whether it's on X, YouTube, or I've got like a private VIP group that's free, but people just have to come in and contribute, add value. And that's typically where I share these things first. But I will always tell you my degree of confidence when I'm making these type of investments. I will say like I'm going, and I never tell my audience what they should do. I tell them what I am doing. So I say like, hey, I just went and bought some of this. I didn't spend a ton of money on it, but this came from a source of mine who's super connected. And so Jensen, for example, was one of those things of like someone who I know is very connected in the industry. Works for a tier 1 fund. That's the multi-billion dollar fund. And he knows a lot of people. And so when he came to me and said, hey, we have this thing, Jensen, like it's going to be big, and introduced me to the guy who's creating it. It was a new attempt on a way to, because meme coins have to innovate. They have to be something new and fresh, right? And so it was more of like this, the idea was more about showing the lifestyle and the thought process behind someone that's been super successful, right? Like Jensen started NVIDIA from nothing with like $400, $800, and now has built it into one of the largest companies in the world. And he publicly talks a lot about his psychology, his mentality, how he approaches things. And so the idea with Jensen is like not so much about a meme per se. It's more about the lifestyle of a role model that people can look up to. And so again, it was like I told, like I think on Jensen I said, guys, this is like a very very highly speculative one. You're probably good chance you lose all your money, but like I'm going to invest into this anyway. Versus if you see something like Pepe coin right now, where I come in often and say, guys, this is something I have ultra high conviction in. And it's because I will continue to learn more along the way, and then I will add to my position bigger, the more confident that I get in it. And so that this is, I have a good, like, and you're always going to lose some of your bets on meme coins, but having an opportunity to invest at very, very low market cap, something that could be like on WIF, for example, we got in my community, I told them about it, 40 million, and then went to like almost 5 billion before the slow correction. So that's over 100x, right? And on the first video I made about WIF, I think I even said like, this is really fucking funny, and but I am going to put a buy-in today at this price, and I said I'm going to follow very closely, and I did, and I saw that same kind of virality happening. So yes, my first buy, and I told the community too, I made a video that night. everyone was able to get in around 40 million. And then I think 2 days later, I came back and said, guys, my level of confidence is just like 2x. I'm going in bigger, you know. And then Ansem starts talking about it, whatever, right? And then I'm like, okay, now so then it's even more. And then it goes for guys like, I think that there's, you know, my thesis of this upcoming bull run is that it will be much larger than 2021 as far as gains. So if Doge went up to 89 billion and SHIB to 40 billion, I think that there's rooms for the top altcoins of this space to run to 100 billion, because I think something like Doge will get to, if it was at 98 billion before 89, Doge is probably going to go to 150, 200 billion this run. You know, SHIB probably will do, if it went to 40 billion last time, it'll probably go to 60 or 80. I'm less bullish on Shiba, for example. We'll see, but we'll see. But I think there's going to be people want new things with more upside opportunity, and so there will be 2 or 3 or 4, 5 maybe meme coins this cycle that hit $100 billion or more likely, and I think WIF is my highest conviction on that one, and people know that, right? And then so I'll tell people if I've got high conviction, and again, this is just what I'm doing and how I feel.